Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we get set for our first elimination race here of the Chase for the Championship for the debut season of the NRSL Winston SuperSpeedway Series. We are getting set now to find out who is moving on to the Elite 8. 12 drivers started out the season. They began their journey last week at our first playoff race at Daytona. They look to finish out the first round here tonight at Armory Digital, moving on to the next round of the Chase for the Championship. One driver's already done that, as last week Alex Gray took the checkered flag in the closest finish of the season at Daytona. He starts off second here tonight, but he can finish out today's race behind the wall if he wants to, knowing he will move on to the next round of the 8 drivers that are going to be continuing on their journey here for the championship. But the question is, who are the other 7 that are going to join him? We'll find out the answer to that when the checkered flag waves at the end of these 29 laps. Currently, right now, Alex Gray, Ashlyn Boyd, who finished runner-up last week in that photo finish, by the way, along with Joseph Srigley, Zach Rogers, Austin LaPlante, Eli Bright, Steve Morgan, and Dallas McIntosh. They are currently the drivers that if we were to move on to the next round now, they would move on to the round of 8. The drivers that come into this race in the danger zone are P Plourd, Brenna Carmichael, Benjamin Miles, and Zachary Fitzwater. But the point standings are still so close after our Daytona race last week. It is still too close to call of who's going to move on to the round of 8 and who isn't. A lot can happen during the course of the race here tonight at Armory Digital. The 2 drivers that I think we could possibly say are definitely moving on. We definitely know Alex Gray, and Ashlyn Boyd's second place finish put him in a pretty good position. He actually right now is a total of 26 points ahead of that 8th position in the point standings cut line, so maybe he just needs a top 15 finish to move on to the round of 8. Not as much pressure on the 16 team coming into this race here tonight. Let's go down, get command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Charles Sandfer going to be starting on the pole position here tonight, still looking for his first win of the season. And I gotta say, past couple of weeks, the one car that seems to always be popping up there near the front is Charles Sandfer. Now, he obviously got involved in a wreck a couple of weeks ago at Pigs Creek, but he was the race leader at one point during that race. He was also up inside the lead pack in last week's race at Daytona and was close to the front for most of that race. So it seems like it's been a close but no cigar kind of season for that 35 team. Let's see if maybe some good starting track position tonight could end up giving him a bit of an edge heading towards the checkered flag in this race. But we also should mention Alex Gray alongside of him. No pressure coming into this one. So Alex Gray could kind of put the 110% effort up to 150% because whether he wrecks or not, he's moving on to the round of 8. So he could go out there more aggressive than he normally would be and try and win his second race of the season. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case in this race. Of course, we'll keep tabs on the big battle that's going to be going on of drivers trying to race their way into the top 8 in the point stands. I think the big focus is going to be drivers like Eli Bright, Steve Morgan, Dallas McIntosh. Will they stay in? And of course, P Plourd, Brenna Carmichael, Benjamin Miles, and Zachary Fitzwater. Will they be able to race their way in at the completion of this race? P Plourd, of course, the former winner this season at Armory when he went to victory lane, and he's rolling off from the 11th position here tonight. So we'll have to see if lightning will strike twice for the 18 team, being able to maybe go to victory lane for the second time this season at the same racetrack they went to victory lane at for the first time this year. Pace car makes the left-hand turn to pit road. We're ready to turn them loose. Charles Sandfer, Alex Gray, Pontiac and Ford. Then in row 2, Pontiac and Ford with Seth Cole down low and N Stapleton up high. It's time to find out who's moving on to the round of 8. Green flags in the air. We're underway at Armory Digital. Pontiac's on the inside line, going to get the early advantage through turns 1 and 2. As they head towards that little dip there in between turns 1 and 2, one of the trickiest parts of this racetrack. And now Charles Sandfer side by side with fellow Pontiac Grand Prix Seth Cole. That battle not going to last very long. Seth Cole very easily going to take the spot, but look at J Jefferson down low with Shane Lake. He got a big run down the back straightaway. One thing about this racetrack that we saw the first time we were here is a car down on pit road. That's Alex Gray in the 90. We already mentioned he's moving on to the next round. He could finish behind the wall if he so chose. Is that what he's doing? He has to complete a lap here, which I think he will do. But this is very interesting. Maybe not wanting to tear up his race car or something. He has crossed the line. Pulls into his pit stall. What are they planning on doing here? Might have been something mechanically amiss. As now Preston Plourd, who went to victory lane here the last time we were at Armory Digital. He's now going to go for the race lead. Had some Pontiacs up here at the front. Sandfer, Cole, Lake, and now Plourd. But the one thing I was going to mention here that we saw from last time out at Armory Digital is the runs that you can get on the front and back straightaway. Case in point, Preston Plourd, when the white flag waved here at Armory the last time we were here, he was in the 5th position. He came around the next time to the checkered flag as the race leader. Oh, we had a wreck. We had something take place up there in turns 1 and 2. There's no caution. Oh, yes, there is. There is a caution. The lights are not on outside the racetrack there. The caution lights I do not see flashing yellow. That's why it confused me. Okay, now they're flashing yellow, but boy, they're so difficult to see. Caution is out. We apparently had some incident take place in 1 and 2. Alex Gray is going to come off pit road, but I think he is at least 1 lap down. Maybe he's on the tail end of the lead lap, and it looks like the 22 of Tony Green may be the reason for this yellow. Also some visible left side damage on the 30 of William Brock. We're going to have to wait and see when Gray crosses the line. He might still be on the lead lap. See where they score him. Yes, he is. Wow. A very timely caution for him. So whatever the issue was that drew him to pit road, it's not going to hurt him in the long run. I mean, it wasn't going to hurt him anyway. He's moving on to the next round of the chase regardless with his win week, but he at least is going to have a chance to maybe get himself back up into the hunt, maybe for this win, but we'll have to wait and see. Preston Plourd, though, probably was wishing this race was 3 laps long, so he could win this race here and move on to the next round as well, but still a long ways to go in this one as he leads us under our first caution of the day. Let's take a look at a replay. Here's what happened, and a number of our playoff drivers were around this too. Fitzwater, Miles, McIntosh, Ashlyn Boyd, and Joseph Srigley, as you're going to see here, contact in the left rear quarter panel of Tony Green, courtesy of Dallas McIntosh. That sends Green up the racetrack into William Brock, who had absolutely nowhere to go. And they all got it saved, and then I don't think Tony Green realized that Brock was up there. He tried to get up out of the way of everybody, and unfortunately wasn't able to get out of the way soon enough. Boy, close call there for Zach Rogers, who nearly ran into the back of William Brock, but fortunately was able to get it back down in time. And after all that, it's the 22 that goes sliding down the banking of turns 1 and 2. And yeah, I can see the caution lights now in slow motion, but boy, they are not that bright. You can see that one caution light up there. It's very difficult to see when the yellow lights are flashing. And that's what put us under the caution for the first time here tonight at Armory. And to my knowledge, none of the playoff contenders really got much damage. So we'll have to move on and see what continues as we continue to find out who's going to move on to the round of 8 and who isn't. Probably the last people that wanted to see that early caution come out would have been the top 7, top 8, because at that point in time, they had really broken away from the rest of the field. And if this thing had gone long green, it could have ended up coming down to maybe those 7 or 8 to, battle for a good portion of the first half of this race. The other thing I'm kind of interested in as well is the fact that we did not have anybody of the leaders come to pit road. Because if memory serves me correctly, our last race here at Armory was the same scheduled distance, and they had to come to pit road during the course of that race. So, I mean, obviously, they might not be quite yet in the fuel window. That might have been why some of these leaders didn't want to give up the track position, but I'm almost certain they're going to have to come to pit road before this race comes to a completion. You see Tony Green there on the inside line. No rear deck lid whatsoever, but he's still running. He is still on the racetrack, and so all 42 cars that took the green to start this race will take the green to continue this race, although green is scored 1 lap down. We also had another driver coming to pit road, just worth mentioning. Z Winkle was also on pit lane along with Tony Green and William Brock, though I didn't see him get any damage from the wreck, so keep that in mind. He might be able to make it a couple laps extra than everybody else when and if those green flag pit stops take place. Preston Plourd out in front. Why is that important? Well, he was able to lead a lap, and if he can lead the most laps, that's 2 valuable bonus points he can have in the bank towards making it into the top 8 and the round of 8 when we get to the completion of this race. But I think they're obviously shooting for much higher goals. They want to win this race here tonight to move on. Green flag back in the air on lap number 7. And Preston's going to be able to clear Tony Green. Patrick Smith in second place, not quite so lucky, so Preston Plourd very firmly in control of the top position for the moment. That 22 car might be up to speed, actually. He's holding court right now with the 98. Now he's losing speed. Okay, so it looks like it's the straightaway speed that kills him. But he seems to be pretty okay through the corners. And now the Pontiac barrage up front begins once again. Preston Plourd with the lead. Shane Lake trying to move to second. You've got Seth Cole and Charles Sandfer back there as well. This was the track that Pontiac got their first win of the season, courtesy of Preston Plourd, and it's been their only win so far. Now a lot of contenders up here. Seth Cole and Shane Lake, they're the 43 and the 44, trying to combat the issues they had back at Pig Street when the two of them got involved in a wreck due to some green flag pit stop miscommunication. J Jefferson down there in the bottom. How would it be for Jefferson to go to victory lane? He is dead last in the point stands coming into this race. And how would it be for him to be able to at least be able to put that 55 in victory lane? JT Bryant not doing too much better here this season in that 98 car, 31st in the point standings. The 88 car, I should say, not the 98. And he's going to go to the race lead all by himself. He didn't really have much help there through 3 and 4, but he made it work all by his lonesome. And now, he'll put the Quality Care Ford Taurus in the race lead. Preston Plourd moves back to second. They're 4 wide further back here. That's Seth Cole and Tim Walsh put in the middle. And one of the drivers that came into this race in the danger zone, Zachary Fitzwater, now starting to make his way up towards the front. Fitzwater came into this race 12th of the 12 playoff drivers, and now trying to make his way up towards the front to get himself back into the top 8. Ooh, that's close back there between R Brommer and Jonathan Zoerlein. They keep it together, though. Eli Bright right now behind the number 9. Bright comes into this race 6th in the point standings, just trying to have a consistent enough day to be able to move on to the round of 8. The other playoff contenders are starting to work their way to the front. There's Benjamin Miles, another of the drivers that was in the danger zone coming into this race. He was 11th of the 12 playoff drivers to start this race. Work his way up towards the top 10. Joseph Srigley, 3rd in points, behind him there in the 77. And the other 2 drivers that were the danger zone drivers, Preston Plourd and Brenna Carmichael. Plourd running in 2nd. What about the 73, though? Carmichael, there he is. Currently trapped up on the top side of the racetrack, as we've got some playoff contenders here near the rear of the field. Dallas McIntosh, the 24 of Zach Rogers, and the 16 of last week's runner-up, Ashlyn Boyd. Steve Morgan, one of the 2 most consistent drivers during the regular season, is back here. Morgan came into this race 7th in the point standings, only 8 points ahead of the cutoff line. This is not where he needs to be running, and also Austin LaPlante is near the tail end of the field. LaPlante was 5th in the points coming into this race. They are relying on a caution. There's Alex Ray. My guess is some mechanical issue sent him to pit road in the early stages of this one. But the good news for him is he's moving on to the round of 8, regardless of where he finishes out this race. Meanwhile, up front, battle for 4th between a couple of playoff contenders that are in the danger zone. Fitzwater down low, Preston Plourd up high. battle for second. Tim Walch to the bottom on J Jefferson. This is all going on behind the Ford of J Bryant. And again, the question, if this thing goes long green flag run, when do these drivers hit pit road? It was pit stops in the closing stages of our first Armory Digital race that ended up having that amazing win by P Plourd, who was able to pick up 5 spots in the final lap. Will we see a little bit of deja vu here tonight? The only difference is, if I recall correctly, we ran the entire Armory Digital first race event completely caution-free. We have had one caution so far here tonight. Were drivers able to save enough fuel under that yellow flag that they are able to make it the entirety of this race without having to come to pit road? Only time will tell. Currently, Fitzwater and Plourd making clear cases for themselves to race their way into the round of 8. Both running up inside the top 5. Fitzwater right now in 3rd. Plourd was 5th, now slips back to 6th. Right now, the drivers I would be very worried for would be drivers like Steve Morgan and Austin LaPlante. LaPlante came into this race 9 points ahead of the cut line. Steve Morgan, as we mentioned, came into this race only 4 points ahead of the cut line. So it is still very close and still possible for them to fall outside of the top 8. Fitzwater to the bottom of the racetrack on Tim Walch looking for second. R Brommer in the 40 car right behind him. This is the highest we've seen Brommer run in a race in a long time. Zach Rogers, we saw him towards the rear of the field not too long ago. He has now fought his way up almost into the top 10. 3-time winner this season, looking for his 4th win of the year. Mentioned up to this point, only one driver is locked into the round of 8. That's Alex Gray after his win last week at Daytona. All the other spots are basically up for grabs. Right now, the top 2 seem content to run single file as they are 3 wide behind them, a couple rows deep. That's Shelley on the bottom, Fitzwater in the middle, Brommer up top side, and now almost 4 wide as James Shelley got a nice run out of turn 2. Zach Rogers has a couple of playoff contenders with him. That was, I believe, Eli Bright in the 8 and Dallas McIntosh in the 28. And Tim Walch now having enough of running behind the 88. He's going for the race lead himself. Last week, there were a lot of Fords up at the front. Well, right now, crossing the line, the top 4 are Ford Tauruses. Walch, Bryant, Fitzwater, and Shelley. So all of a sudden here heading into the second half, the close of this season, the Fords are really stepping it up. And it's kind of interesting because if you don't count Alex Gray's win last week, up until that point, Ford had only gone to victory lane 2 times this season with Dallas McIntosh and Steve Morgan. Mostly Chevrolet dominating the trips to victory lane. And the pit stops. They have happened. Srigley just now leaving pit road. Isaac Nichols as well. Who is that? Is that Dylan Young in the 2? Nope, that's Flickinger in the 6. And we've got more drivers hitting pit lane. A couple of them are playoff drivers. LaPlante, Steve Morgan, Eli Bright, P Plourd, Ashlyn Boyd also on pit road. And J Bryant was the leader, and he hit the pit lane. That's going to turn the race lead over, I believe, to Tim Walch. And now comes the big question. How spread out is the field going to be after these pit stops? Walch, I think, is coming to pit road. Fitzwater as well, Jefferson, Stapleton, Diego Yepez, and that turns the lead over to R Brommer. Alexander Rowe is in, same for Dallas McIntosh. Lake, Hartnett, and Sandfer also on pit road. Benjamin Miles, Zajdel, Norman. J Bryant just now leaving pit road. Current race leader is right here, Ryan Brommer. He, along with Zach Rogers, staying out. Also, the 10 of Angel Navarro stayed out. Navarro, did he run out of fuel? Where is he? Oh, he ran out of fuel. Navarro's run out of fuel in the 10. Brommer's going to make it to pit road, as will Rogers, but tough break there for Angel Navarro. Almost shades of last week at Daytona when Brenna Carmichael stayed out an extra lap and ran out of fuel. Also on pit road, Patrick Smith, Seth Cole, and the aforementioned Brenna Carmichael. He made it to pit road this time without running out of fuel, but Navarro, boy, he's going to lose a lot of track position, but fortunately he did make it to the entrance of pit road, and he will make it to his pit stall, so that's good news for him. William Brock just now come to pit road. He's been off the pace after he got involved in their first caution, and this, I believe, right here is where the race lead would cycle back around to the 13 of Tim Walsh, dependent on where J.T. Bryant came off pit road. And they right now, according to our live scoring, are showing the 13 ahead of the 88. I believe the race lead is going to cycle around to Tim Walsh. We had a couple of other drivers that hadn't pitted yet and stayed out, and they are just now coming to pit road. Zach Winkle, who, remember, was one of the few drivers that actually came to pit road under the caution, so he was able to stay out a couple laps extra, as was Alex Gray. And now that will be the last of the leaders that have to come to pit road. Johnny Gardner in the 46 has been on pit road for quite a long time, so there's apparently some issues with his machine. Don't know if it's mechanical or not, and this will, I believe, indeed cycle the lead back around to now the 13 of Tim Walsh. I believe was second place when the green flag pit stops began. Fitzwater is going to move into second place, so definitely a good slot for him to be in as he tries to make his way into the round of 8. Flickinger will be in third, fourth Ryan Brommer, Diego Yepez in fifth. And this is a battle inside 6th through 10th. Alexander Rowe, Zach Rogers, James Shelley, Eli Bright, and J.T. Bryant. And in this group from 11th to 15th, you've got Nichols, McIntyre, McIntosh, Jefferson, and Srigley. Stapleton, he would be scored in 16th. 17th would be Ashland Boyd. 18th, Seth Cole. 19th, Preston Plourd. And 20th, Ace Garcia. Now we got to look and see about our drivers that came into the danger zone. Where are they? There's Benjamin Miles. He's quite a ways back. Car leaving pit road right now. That might be the 46 of Gardner. No, that's actually the 22 of Tony Green. LaPlante's way back here still. Steve Morgan also way back here. And there's Angel Navarro. Right now, things not looking good for Benjamin Miles or Preston Plourd. They need to get back up here into this lead pack where the battle is on for the lead. Flickinger trying to take the spot from Tim Walsh, but Walsh will lead that lap at least. Right now, Fitzwater looks poised to jump into the top 8 in points. Right now, he would knock Steve Morgan out. How ironic. Two drivers that swap the points lead back and forth for the majority of this season. It may end up coming down to one of them eliminating the other from the playoffs. Zach Rogers firmly up inside the top 10, as is Eli Bright. So I think right now, barring any issues for them, they will move on to the round of 8. Johnny Gardner just now leaving pit road. Dallas McIntosh was a danger zone, well, not a danger zone driver, but he came in the 8th position in points, and right now he is scored in 11th, so good run for him right now, as is for Joseph Srigley, so I think they both are currently safe with where they are running. Here's the big question mark, is Preston Plourd. He was 9th in the points coming into this race. I think the driver he's trying to best right now could very well be Austin LaPlante. Because right now, I believe Steve Morgan's slot has been taken by where Fitzwater is currently running. So I think Preston Plourd right now is trying to outduel the 50 of Austin LaPlante. The gap between the two of them coming to this race was 13 points. Plourd is currently running in 16th. He needs LaPlante to be running 30th or worse, whereas LaPlante currently scored 37th. So Plourd, if he can continue to run where he is and not lose a lot of spots, he might make it into the next round and eliminate LaPlante. Here's Ashlyn Boyd. Boyd right now in good shape. I think with the runner-up finish he had last week, he's in a good position to move on to the next round. Right now, I believe the drivers that currently would be in the cutoff areas, based off of my own calculations in my head, would be Benjamin Miles, Brenna Carmichael, Steve Morgan, and Austin LaPlante. These are just mental calculations, though. They are not official. So many times I have, in my head, tried to do mental calculations, and I end up going in to score 4, putting in the export, and it ends up turning out completely different. I mean, last week I thought Levi McIntyre was going to get the second wild card spot, but Benjamin Miles was able to pass him in the point stage, and I hadn't even accounted for that. So you cannot go completely based off my word. It's just what I am mentally thinking I am able to calculate in my head as the live race goes on. Zach Rogers up here, though. I mean, how would it be if he could go to victory lane for a 4th time this season? He's got a shot. J Bryant was the leader when the pit stops began. He's now fought his way back up inside the top 5. He has a very strong Ford. Can he get back to the lead is the question, as we have 4 laps to go, and they are closing in on the slower car of William Brock. Now look at the Fords. The Fords are up at the front again. Flickinger, Shelley, Walch, Fitzwater, and Bryant. It's shades of last week at Daytona. The blue oval, looming large at the front of the field. Where's Flickinger going to catch William Brock is the question. Looks like down here into 3. Is he going to be able to get to the inside? Yes, he will. Brock gives him a lane. Might hold up that outside line, though. Look at Zach Rogers going way up top side to try and get around him. It's going to lose him some ground at the moment. Top 3 kind of broke away. Flickinger, Shelley, and Walsh, as Brommer and Rogers and Rowe all had a little bit of difficulty getting around the slower 30. The odds in favor of a Ford going to victory lane here in this one. Ryan Brommer now has Alexander Rowe and Zach Rogers lined up. Those 3 could get a heck of a run down this straightaway. Flickinger comes into this race in 22nd in points. Tim Walsh is 28th in points, and James Shelley is 16th in points. But all 3 still looking for victory lane for the first time this season, as is Brommer in 4th, Rowe in 5th. Zach Rogers in 6th, the first of the drivers that has been to victory lane. 2 laps to go here at Armory. Shelley 3 wide with Brommer. Walsh way up top side. Maybe a little contact there with Flickinger. Looks like Shelley's got Rogers working with him. Walsh has Brommer and Rowe on the top side, as Zach Flickinger trying to defend each line. Make sure each one doesn't get that much of a run. Walsh now moves firmly to 2nd. Will he be able to make a move on Flickinger? He peeks low. Gets to the left rear, he is there, side by side. They'll take this down the front straightaway to the white flag. Tim Walsh trying to clear Flickinger before they get to the start-finish line. White flag in the air, 1 more lap to go. Walsh clears for the top spot. Flickinger trying to slot in 2nd. Look at Fitzwater with a big run down the bottom there, 3 wide for 3rd. Fitzwater back to 2nd. He'll slot in there. Fitzwater, 3rd place battle with J Bryant now entering the mix. Now will Flickinger make a move on Tim Walsh? Yes, he will. Question is, though, will he get help? Side by side down to turn 3. Flickinger low. Walsh up top side. Here comes Fitzwater and Rogers. Can they offer either line some drafting help? No. Flickinger looks like he might clear Tim Walsh off before he does. Can Walsh get a big enough run to try a crossover down here into the tri-oval? Coming to the checkered flag. Flickinger makes the move, makes the pass, and takes the win here tonight at Armory Digital. 2nd straight win for the Blue Oval Ford. First win of the season for Z Flickinger. Before tonight, he had only one finish inside of the top 5. And tonight gets his second with a trip to victory lane. For a moment, I thought he had lost the race when Walsh got around him. But because they were 3 wide for third, Flickinger was able to slot back in behind Tim Walsh, set him up down the back straightaway, and make the pass by the time they exited out of turn number 4. What a win for Z Flickinger. And now comes the moment of truth. Who is moving on to the round of 8, and whose playoffs contention comes to an early end? Zach Rogers, 3rd place. He's locked into the round of 8. Fitzwater with a 5th place run. I'm pretty sure now he's locked into the round of 8. And he came into this race in the danger zone. Excuse me, but you have to go down a little further. 12th place for Joseph Srigley. That's enough to lock him in. Dallas McIntosh, 14th. That's enough to lock him in. Eli Bright, 15th. He's locked in. Oh boy. Brenna Carmichael finished in the 16th position. The battle between Carmichael and Plourd might have been heating up there in the closing stages. Those two were separated by 2 points, and Plourd finished 24th. So Carmichael right now would be the one that would move in if he was able to finish ahead of LaPlante. Let's see if he did. The gap between Carmichael and LaPlante was 15 points. With Carmichael finishing 16th, LaPlante has to finish 32nd or worse. Where did LaPlante officially finish this race? 37th was the official finishing result for the 50 car. And I believe that with that, Brenna Carmichael has moved into the round of 8. And I think, just based off my calculations, the 4 that will not move on to the next round will be LaPlante, Steve Morgan, Benjamin Miles, and Preston Plourd. I believe those are the drivers that will not move on to the next round. Where did Morgan finish? He finished in 39th. LaPlante finished in 37th. Yeah. Boy. How about that? Actually, hold on. Let me look here real quickly, just to make sure I'm correct in this. Actually, let's see. We know for certain. I'm pretty certain Miles didn't make it. I'm pretty certain Morgan didn't make it. LaPlante didn't make it. And yeah, I think Preston Plourd is the last driver that did not make it. Because Eli Bright finished in 15th. McIntosh finished well. Rogers finished well. They all finished ahead of Preston Plourd. So I do believe those are the 4 drivers that will not move on. So unofficially, I believe the Elite 8 moving on to the next round will be Alex Gray, Ashlyn Boyd, Joseph Srigley, Zach Rogers, Eli Bright, Dallas McIntosh, Brenna Carmichael, and Zachary Fitzwater. We're going to find out if it's official or not in just a moment. Thank you all for tuning in tonight's race, though, from Armory. Congrats once again to Z Flickinger on the win. If you enjoyed tonight's race, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and become part of the crew today. We've shown you full vision results. These are your point standings and your reformatted points showing you the 8 drivers that will battle for the championship in our upcoming races. So till then, I've been Seth Cole. You've been watching a production of NCRA, offline racing at its best.